Welcome back to another edition of Why We're Fans, the podcast and YouTube channel where we find out why you're a fan of your team. First time joining in, welcome, subscribe, share, review. I'm your host, Gennaro Munez, and there's my co-host right there, Duran Munez. Duran, how are you doing today?
Good, man. We got some playoff football today. I'm kind of excited. We're going to knock this out and just in time to sit down, have a couple beers, and this might be the best weekend of football all season. So dude, we got some good teams going today.
Hell yeah. So today we got special guest. We got Sam Marcoux. How's it going, Sam?
It's going well. I don't know why you guys are talking about football. Football season's over, my friend.
For all of us. For all of us, it is.
Yeah. We got a Niner fan, Cowboy fan, and a Dolphins fan. Cheers to you, man.
Cheers. Sam, I know you're constantly busy and putting out content. Is there anything that you want to promote up front?
I want to highly promote you get a contractor if you're doing a bathroom remodel, because that's what I'm doing this weekend, and it's a mess. So find a friendly face, hire the contractor, pay the bill. It'll be worth your time back. But no, welcome to perfectville.com. That's our website. That's our show. That's what we do. So that's it.
You got it. And I found you on the Fins Addict website.
Yeah.
We are a part of the Fin Addicts Network.
Network. Yep.
Fan. We started that up actually around August of last year, right before the Miami Dolphins season. So it was very good timing, because when your team wins, as you guys know, fans out there, listeners, content consumers can't get enough of talking about that team. So Dolphins going 10-6. We joined this network right at the right time, and lo and behold, proof positive, people find us.
Perfectville. Nice.
All right, man.
Well, hey, man, if you're in the market for an electrician, let me know, man. I'm an electrician by trade. So
you know what? I needed. Can I ask you, as an electrician, my cousin who lives in the same town as I do. I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I live in Livermore, California. And my cousin who lives like down the street from me, who is a union electrician, I've needed some electrical work done here forever. And he's just like, I'm too busy. He's too busy. And I get it, right? He's got a family, he's got all this stuff. Yet my sister, who lives further away, is like, oh yeah, cousin Lewis came over and did all this electrical work. I'm like, yeah. So maybe it's not an electrician question. Maybe it's a question of, why does my family hate me? I suppose.
Is he a Patriots fan? Is he a division rival?
The Raiders fan.
Oh, it makes sense. The guys had a good battle this year. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Maybe those union electricians, they're too focused on commercial work. I do a lot of residential, so if you need help, maybe I come down to Livermore and help you out.
I might have you come down to Livermore if this all goes well, because eventually I'm going to need some electrical work. I got some ceiling fans I need replaced. I got to replace all my electrical plugs, and I can do it myself, but it's not, it's tough work. I applaud everything you guys are doing. I'm getting an education right now.
There you go. Right on. So like Duran said, let's kick it off. Let's get it started. Duran, go ahead, and you got some questions. Go ahead. Yeah.
So you're in California like we are, but you're a Dolphins fan. How did it all start, man?
Yeah, so I'm in my late 30s, and if you look at my sports teams, everything is LA. I'm an LA Dodgers fan. I'm an LA Lakers fan. I'm an LA Kings fan. If I had to pick a soccer team, I guess I'd be an LA Galaxy fan. But the Miami Dolphins don't really fit in there, right? And my whole family, we just talked about my cousin, my jerk-ass cousin. They're all Raider fans, and they're all Niner fans, and they're all fighting with each other, good-hearted, good-natured, but they're all Bay Area fans for the most part, because that's where we're centralized. And I really do believe that my Miami Dolphin fandom came from the fact that it is probably the furthest away from the Bay Area you could possibly be. So growing up in the 80s, in the late 80s, I was like 6-7 years old. If you think about it, the Dodgers beat the A's, right? And I'm already the contrarian of the family, so I like that. They're the natural rival of the Giants, so boom, Dodgers fan. Lakers with Magic Johnson's out there winning every single year. So, and in the 80s, you didn't have every single game on TV, so you were just exposed to the winning franchises. So you saw the Dodgers, you saw the Lakers, and then Wayne Gretzky in 1988 was traded to the Kings. So these are all the winning franchises, and I know it pissed off my parents, so why not? But when it comes to the Dolphins, they weren't the winning franchise in 1988. In fact, that's the only year that Dan Marino had a losing record. So it doesn't really make sense. The only thing I can really think of is that it's the furthest away from the Bay Area. And I went, that's my team right there. And then it just kind of fostered from that.
How old were you when you made that decision?
Well, I reevaluated after every season, quite frankly.
Okay.
But no, I was probably about 6, 7 years old. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's when you really start to formulate, what team and recognize who, the players are and all that fun
Mhm.
stuff. So 1988, 1989, something like that.
I do remember the Dolphins around that age too, mainly just because of their logo. It stood out, the uniform colors and things like that. So those were one of those teams where I had like a mat of all 32 teams on there, and it might not even been 32 at that time, might have been just 30. But I remember always looking at the Dolphins logo. So yeah, they've always stood out to me.
Yeah, there was 30 teams back then because the Jaguars and the Panthers in the early to mid 90s came on board, and that's when they
Yep.
split up the teams into 4 divisions versus 3 and
Mm-hmm.
all that fun stuff. But yeah, it's good times, man. Football was fun to watch back. It's still fun to watch, obviously, but
Yeah.
just you always kind of gravitate back to when you first got that hook on any sport. And growing up with Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, Steve Young, John Taylor, even into Ricky Waters and all those guys in the
Mhm.
early to mid 90s for the Niners, you watch a lot of good football here in the Bay Area. But no, it just wasn't my jam. I was a Dolphins fan.
Yeah. So it's weird. You're all the way in California. You're a fan of the Dolphins. I know there's not many Dolphins fans around here. So did you have a buddy or anyone that you met out here that you could sit down and watch the games with?
Yeah, surprisingly, there's more than you would think. But I mean, that's probably true of any fan base, right?
Mhm.
There's like 50 billion people in the Bay Area, as you guys know. So you're going to find, I mean, you could probably find a Jacksonville Jaguars fan somewhere running around here if you looked hard enough. But the thing about the Miami Dolphins, and this is true of the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Dallas Cowboys and a few others, is that they were good in the 70s. And going back to that, what I was talking about, you didn't see all the games back then.
Mhm.
You only saw the primetime game, or you saw the Super Bowl. And the Dolphins obviously won the Super Bowl a couple times in the 70s. They were going to the Super Bowl regularly in the 70s and the 80s. They actually have a fan base that's pretty much spread out across the United States, because when you think about when football started to become popular, like the 70s and the 80s, those people were just like me. They were exposed to the winning teams. So
Mhm.
if you were in, Wisconsin, sure, you could be a Packers fan. But if you saw the Dolphins over and over again and you happen to like, a Dolphin wearing a helmet or whatever your reason was, you became a Dolphins fan. And all of a sudden you've got roots as a Miami Dolphins fan in Wisconsin. So there's actually quite a bit out here in the Bay Area. There's some bars that cater to Miami Dolphins fans down in the South Bay, San Jose, things like that. And of course, there's Facebook groups and everything else to get together. And then there's a big Dolphins presence up in like the Rio Vista area. So there's a bar up off of Highway 12 that is almost 100% Miami Dolphins every single week.
That's interesting. Yeah, there's a couple Cowboys fan groups out here too that I've watched games with and stuff like that. It's amazing how Facebook can kind of connect everyone together. And I mean, now we have NFL tickets, so you could always watch your team no matter where you're at. But before NFL ticket, before the internet, streaming sites, was there a way that you would have to follow the Dolphins, rather it be on the radio, sitting in your car, or even watching like on Yahoo, the ball pass, run, penalty type of thing?
Yeah, you just nailed it right there. I mean, I think to this day, sometimes I still watch that on the ESPN app just for like a little bit of nostalgia, where you can kind of see the ball start to go.
Yeah,
It's fun to
there
watch
you go.
baseball that way too. Sometimes, like I got so nervous for the Dodgers this year that I couldn't watch some of the championship game and World Series games. I was watching them on my phone because I just couldn't handle the pressure of it. So yeah, to answer your question, growing up as a teenager in the 90s, NFL ticket was around, but my parents weren't going to spring for it. So I had to watch whatever game was on and then just basically follow the scroll at the bottom. And then they would do breaks, right? So halftime was crucial because you would get highlights of your team, or you would actually watch a lot of NFL primetime, because then you would get like a 3 to 4 minute, highlight package of your team. And that's how I watched the Miami Dolphins year in and year out. I'd get maybe 2 games a year that would be on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, and then the rest of the time it was watching 4 minutes a week and then reading articles in newspapers and calling it good.
Yeah. G, you got any questions to start it off right here?
Yeah, I just want to know, when you're watching the game, whether it be watching on Yahoo with those little dots walking by, or with your crew, do you have like a tradition or like a superstition that you have? I know I have mine. Like, I have to wear like the same outfit all the time, same socks, chonies, all that shit. But I want to know if like you have any traditions or superstition.
No, not really. I mean, I think if you want to call it a tradition, I do have to be wearing some sort of Miami Dolphins gear, whether it's a shirt or a hat or, a jersey or something, a socks, same thing, but it doesn't have to be the same one over and over again. I do find myself, if I'm watching the game and I'm really, really into it, I tend to pace. I do kind of get that nervous energy and I can't just sit still. So I am kind of walking around and wearing a hole in the floor. But that's about it. If I'm at a game, I go to a couple games a year, either in Miami or on the road. It's a lot of barking. It's a lot of chatter. It's a lot of, talking about what they need to do next. And then everyone around me is kind of like, shut up, man, and just watch the game. I remember I was a couple of years ago, I was in Miami and they were playing the Bears and I sat next to this Bears fan and he was the nicest guy, just a blast to hang out with for 3 hours. But about the third quarter, he was just like, are you podcasting? Are you broadcasting right now? Cause you're just talking throughout the whole game. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm that guy. So maybe that when I'm live, but no, other than that, I as I've gotten older and I've got children now, it's a little harder to carry on those traditions, at least until they get a little bit older, and then I can force their, my neurosis on them. But no, right now, really just wearing some sort of gear. And then typically I am texting a couple of people. We are texting about the game throughout.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's everybody, pacing back and forth. I mean, if you're a true fan, you're always pacing. I mean, I know whenever, I'm a Niner fan. So whenever they were on offense this year, I was literally just like kind of sitting down, waiting for something. When Mullins is back there, I knew it was going to be an interception. But when they're on defense, man, I'm up like my boy Bob Saleh. I was up, just cheering just like how he was. And it's sad to see him go, but big congrats, man. But yeah, man, when you're, like you saying, when you're broadcasting ish, like the guy from the Bears was saying, I think that's a lot of us. I mean, it's just natural habit.
Yeah, it really is. I got some great stories about the Niners. I'm sure we'll get into. I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm actually a road comic, so I do stand up comedy everywhere.
Yeah,
and
hell yeah, awesome.
I was doing comedy in the Bay Area actually, and I was
what venue?
I was at Tommy T's in Pleasanton on this particular night. I was featuring for Bruce. Yes, that Bruce from the Yin Yang Twins song. And nicest guy in the world. He shows up. The funny thing is he's a big dude. Like he's
he's big. Yeah.
He's an offensive tackle. And and he wanted to meet me because I hadn't met him yet. So they're like, hey, he's up in the green room. Go check out Bruce. Go say hi. And I go up there and he's only got his shirt button like right at the top. And it's just like almost that like 90s rap kind of thing going where because he was like so big, like he wasn't going to get his shirt all sweaty before the show. So he just wanted it open so he could like vent. We're talking about comedy and we're rapping back and forth. And the whole time, like his belly's out and, his chest is out. And I'm just kind of like trying not to look at this humongous man thinking like this guy should play for the Dolphins. And, I was trying to have a serious conversation about business. It was very weird. But that night, Bruce is huge with, he's got a massive following, including other celebrities. So I'm on stage and I'm at home, right? Like if I'm working in the Bay Area, I know the area. So I start talking crap about the Niners and, you're getting hooting and hollering. You got Raider fans laughing, you got Niner fans booing, all that fun stuff. So I get off stage and this tall man like smacks me on the thigh. He goes, attaboy. And I'm like, thanks, guy who looks just like Gary Payton. And after the show, he comes up to me and it turns out it's Gary Payton, right? He's an Oakland native and he
the glove,
right? So he comes up to me after the show and he goes, I didn't appreciate those Niner jokes. Now you guys got to remember, I'm a Lakers fan, right?
Yeah.
So I go, well, Gary, I didn't appreciate you teaming up with Karl Malone, Kobe Bryant, Shaquille O'Neal, and somehow losing to the Detroit Pistons in 2004.
Yep.
And he looks at me and he goes, I guess we're even. And then he walks off. So, afterwards I was like, wow, that was kind of fun, right? Like I'm rapping with Gary Payton. I got some great pictures with him. I fanboyed out a little bit. And then the next night, because I was there all weekend, I'm like, well, you never know who's in the audience. So let's just take a break on the 49ers and let's just, take a crap on the other local team. Cause at the time the Raiders were still in Oakland. And I'm just going hard on the Oakland Raiders, probably like 5-6 minutes. Same thing. You got people laughing, joking, even Raider fans. They know they're trash. So they're laughing. And, I get off stage and the entire staff at Tommy T's, including Tommy himself, is got this, big Cheshire cat grin. And I'm like, what? He goes, go upstairs. And I walk upstairs and it's Michael Crabtree, who was on the Raiders. Khalil Mack, who was on the Raiders at the time, and a couple other players who I don't know who they were, but, You never know who's in the audience, and I'm just sitting there. I literally was trashing Michael Crabtree on stage, and then he was upstairs having to hear this, and then he wasn't too happy with me, so he actually bounced, didn't even stay for Bruce. And I'm like, I hope you paid full price and you didn't get your money's worth. But
there's no way that he thought that was an accident.
No, and that's the thing. I didn't know he was there. If I known he was there, I probably would have done it anyways. But but I didn't know he was there, which made it better. I've also had. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. He's another Bay Area native. I was at Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco, and I was I think I was still doing the Raider. I was doing the Raider stuff. And what's his name? He's a cornerback. He was on the Rams. No. I like that guy. That guy's awesome. He's a cornerback for the Rams, and then the Ravens.
Marcus
Peters was there, and he came up to me afterwards too, and he was just like, thank you for talking crap about the Raiders. He goes, I grew up here and I hate the Raiders. And I was like, there we go. I got a fan in Marcus Peters.
Nice.
Wear some socks, Marcus Peters. Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. That's awesome.
Nice.
All right.
That's some good background. I just have one more question about how it all started for you. And it's I always like to know, what was your first Dolphins jersey?
Ooh. First Dolphins jersey, at least that I can remember, was a Dan Marino jersey. I got it when I was probably about 10 years old or so. Christmas present, birthday present, something like that.
Classic.
I'm not big on jerseys, but you got to rep Dan Marino if you get the opportunity to. Yep. And I do remember one of my best friends, actually my best friend, we've been friends for 20 some odd years. He's not big into sports or anything, but we were at like a Togo's or something like that, just a local sandwich shop. And I was wearing my Dan Marino jersey. And some lady was just harassing me. She was like 45 years old and I was like 10. And she was just going off about Dan Marino. And I was just like, I just kind of want this turkey sandwich right now. Can you leave? But to this day, like, because we remember the first thing she goes, Dan Marino. And she said it just like that. So every now and then, me and my buddy, we still kind of inside joke it, just yell that out to one another just to call back. But yeah, Dan Marino.
What brand was it?
It was actually, it was Pro Player.
Yeah.
Remember the Pro Player brand?
Oh yeah.
Yep, definitely do.
And they actually ended up sponsoring what's Joe Robbie Stadium, or where the Dolphins play. It was Pro Player Park or Pro Player Stadium for a while. Okay. So it was kind of cool. Like you had the Dolphins jersey, Pro Player, and then they played at Pro Player Stadium.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, I love those classic jerseys. I mean, they're not thin and form-fitting like the ones are now. They're huge, oversized. Could put your shoulder pads on and still wear it.
Dude, you're absolutely right. I don't know what, I guess that's the fashion of it, but I buy a jersey now and then like literally everyone can see every single beer and every fast food meal I've ever eaten in my life just popping out.
Yeah.
I got to go to like a quadruple X just to get something that's comfortable.
I heard they were trying, that soccer jerseys were selling really well. So they were trying to go to that side of it, but that's another conversation. G, you ready to move on?
Yeah, let's move on. So
usually
around this time we ask your favorite player, but we'd like to take a guess.
Yeah.
Durant, I'm gonna let you lead.
Can I
guess your favorite player?
Yeah, is this favorite player of all time or favorite player currently?
Of all time.
Ooh.
Okay.
Let's go all time. All
time. Of course, you guys do have some Hall of Famers there. But one guy that I really liked and I got to watch, I didn't get to watch much, Dan Marino, but I'm going to go with Jason Taylor.
That's a good one. Jason Taylor's a classic for sure.
G?
I'm going to go recency bias, and I'm going to go Patrick Surtain Sr.
Man, you guys are going hard on the Jimmy Johnson era there. So those were two of the four core pieces. You also had Sam Madison, same name as me, and then you also had a very much an overachiever, guy who shouldn't be playing football that I identified with right there in the middle, who's actually a finalist for the Hall of Fame this year, Mr. Zach Thomas. So
I love Zach Thomas.
Yeah, putting Dan Marino to the side because that's just part of our DNA as Dolphins fans. You guys are circling the drain there. I mean, I'm gonna go with Zach Thomas. So you guys are in the right era. It would be Jason Taylor, but he broke my heart when he went to the Jets that one year. So he kind of gets excommunicated for that. And then Patrick Surtain, I loved him as a player. His kid goes to Alabama, and I can't like Alabama because Nick Saban's there, and he screwed us as a Dolphins coach. So he takes a couple of steps back as well.
I'm not leaving. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the coach of Alabama today.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that you guys are right in the wheelhouse. I'm going to go Zach Thomas, probably favorite of all time.
Yeah, Zach
currently.
Thomas, classic middle linebacker, especially for that era. 7-time Pro Bowler. He's leads the Dolphins in tackles overall, career tackles overall by 400.
Yeah.
So, you can't go wrong. He's definitely a Dolphins legend, and just part of that whole defense that you mentioned before. Jason Taylor, Sam Madison, Patrick Surtain that we mentioned. One other guy that I remember being in there is Brock Marion as well.
Brock Marion, former Cowboy as well. Yep. One of my absolute favorites. In fact, when I used to play Madden back in the day, when I'd play defense, most people play like defensive end or defensive tackle when you're playing Madden. That's the guy you control because you're trying to sack the quarterback. I'd always line up as Brock Marion. That was my guy because you could just kind of control back there. Dude hit like a tank, man. That guy was very, very much underrated. But, when you got Pat Surtain and Sam Madison on either side of you, they're not going to talk about you much. You just, you sit there and you do your job and be okay. That defense, it was loaded. You had Daryl Gardner, you had Tim Bowens, you had, Trace Armstrong. You had all these guys that were just probably superstars if they're not, running around with Zach Thomas and Jason Taylor and the other two cornerbacks there.
Yeah.
I guess that's why I sucked at Madden, because I always try to control the D end.
No, I mean, that makes sense because you can see him. Like sometimes you couldn't see the safety. So I was always like 8-man in the box. And I'm like, I don't even know where my guy is. So you had to pull him up and then just try to guess and make sure he did. Every now and then you just, the AI on the computer be like, oh, your safety's up front. We're just throwing the bomb. And you're like, oh shit, I screwed that one up. But yeah, safety blitz with Brock Marion.
Yeah. I got a couple of questions in this kind of area. How do you feel about Ricky Williams?
Ricky Williams, interesting question. We get it a lot as Dolph fans. I loved him when we traded for him. I thought the world of him. To this day, I have a hard time understanding if there is another, like, if there's a better prototype for a running back. If you combine his size, his speed, his agility, his knowledge of the game, his competitiveness, it's hard to put anybody else above him when you put all those factors together. What's also really hard to do is to forgive him for walking away from the Miami Dolphins on the eve of training camp and leaving us with Travis fucking Minor. Sorry for the language. Undersized Florida State scat back. And that was who our running back was that year. Sorry for the language there, but it still heats me up, man. And then he comes back, and I actually had a hard time sort of forgiving him as a sports fan. I mean, as a human being, I'm sure he's fine. I've only talked to him once, but I just never got into. It was really, really tough. I thought the Miami Dolphins had to move on, and they kept bringing him back, and it felt like a Ricky Williams curse. But all that being said, time heals all wounds. I go back and I watch. There was one magical season. He had 1,800 yards, and he was just unbelievable. It was crazy to see how good he was. I mean, he had these short little pterodactyl triceratops, T-Rex arms, and he was stiff arming guys to the point where you're like, they should be able to physically hug him because he's got these tiny little arms, but he was so strong, he was able to push him off. It was fantastic.
Jabs, yeah. The only reason why I ask is me and Duran are big, Longhorns fans, so we knew, we followed his career for sure. I mean, so that's the only reason I asked. But you said you asked recent players, so I'm curious, who's your recent favorite player?
It's definitely not Jakeem Grant. If you watch our show or listen to our show, I've been off the Jakeem Grant bandwagon ever since we drafted that Keebler elf. But he's not a fan of me either, to be honest. It got back to him. I do some work with the Dolphins proper every now and then, and they're like, you gotta lay off Jakeem Grant. I'm like, no, I don't. He's got to catch a ball. If he wants to be compared to Tyreek Hill, you got to catch the ball. That's one of the things Tyreek Hill does that you don't, Jakeem Grant. If you want to be Tyreek Hill, you got to catch the ball.
Exactly.
Current players, I am still excited about Tua. I know there's a lot of controversy about Tua, but it's been a long time since the Miami Dolphins have had a player that, again, kind of has that makeup to be the leader and just, win. So I'm curious as to where he's going to go. My favorite player on the current team, I'm a big Xavier Howard fan. I think it was great to see him come back and perform. Yep. X going to give it to you. But I guess I'm taking applications for current favorite player. I love the coach, if I pick somebody in the organization. Brian Flores is an awesome human being, and I think he's going to do great things for the Dolphins. But we're still kind of, I mean, our players are all 21, 22 years old. So it's kind of hard to know. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's not going to be there after this year, but how do you hate on Fitzmagic? I don't know. That's a great question, because I'm glad you said all time, because if you were going to guess people, I was like, crap, I got to pick one real quick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm glad it's Zach Thomas, who is just like the standard of middle linebacker, you know. So I think that's awesome. You know, he wasn't like the old school, I guess you would say, like old school linebacker, but he was definitely like, you know, he can cover a little bit. He can cover.
I think he was old
running
school
back for sure.
Those guys
He can cover a little bit.
They're built completely different than middle linebackers are nowadays.
Well, the thing about Zach Thomas too, and actually he spent a year with the Cowboys at the end of his career there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing about Zach Thomas is, you know, he was undersized. He had that kind of Rudy-esque ability about him. He needed those big defensive tackles in front of him to gobble up offensive linemen so that he could use his instincts and plug the hole. I mean, there were times where he was like, Peyton Manning says it, you know, he hated playing the Dolphins because he would get up to the line and Zach Thomas was calling out their plays just based on how they were lining up. And Peyton's like, crap. So he'd have to audible out like Peyton does. And Zach's calling the audible because he studied so well and he was so knowledgeable about the game. So he knew exactly where to go if it was a run play. He just had these good instincts combined with, you know, the ability to just comprehend offensive play schemes. The thing about Zach Thomas to me, he's not going to get in the Hall of Fame this year. He didn't get in last year. He won't get in next year. He's going to be a consistent finalist until his name drops off of eligibility. And it's sad because if he had started 5 years earlier, he's already in. Or if he started 5 years later and had the same career, he'd get in. He came in right before social. It's the class, and it's right before social media became a thing, and you could really blow somebody up even further. So he came in when people still didn't see every single Dolphins game. You didn't have access to every single game and every single tackle. So really, he's still a little bit of an unknown to somebody, let's say in Seattle, Washington, that's a Seahawks fan. They just don't know who Zach Thomas is. And 5 years later, now you got Twitter, now you got Facebook, now you got, the internet streaming every single game. He would have been a monster in terms of being a superstar. 5 years earlier, he doesn't have, he would be going up against, people that look like me going into the Hall of Fame versus, and not Charles Woodson and not Troy Polamalu and not Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne and, all these massive superstars that just are a different level of athlete. So he was an amazing player. He deserves to be in. He won't be in just based on his era. I mean, the other thing is everyone always compares him to Brian Urlacher and Ray Lewis. Those two, obviously Hall of Famers. He's got stats that compare and sometimes are better than those two, but he just doesn't get the run because he doesn't look like that linebacker like those two did too. So there's an aesthetic that doesn't work and a timing that doesn't work for Zach Thomas, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's drafted the same year as Kevin Hardy and Ray Lewis. So I don't know if you remember Kevin Hardy. He was a great player too.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of great players. I mean, one of the things about Zach Thomas that I think he was a 5th round pick. I mean, he wasn't
sixth
round. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't.
No, he was 5th.
Was he 5th?
He was a later round pick. And there's a great story that Jimmy Johnson likes to tell, and Jack Del Rio hates this story. But Jack Del Rio was actually on the Miami Dolphins that year, and after the first preseason game, Jimmy Johnson called Jack Del Rio into his office, and Jack's thinking, cool, he's going to make me a captain. He's going to tell me that, I'm responsible for all this stuff. And what actually happened is Jimmy was like, I'm cutting you because I got this rookie, this late round draft pick, and he's going to be a stud and I don't have room for it. So he ended up retiring Jack Del Rio after one preseason game because that's how good he was. Jimmy Johnson was like, this guy's going to be my guy. And he got rid of this veteran who was a superstar linebacker in Jack Del Rio. So the guy is just amazing.
Do you remember his first game? He has that highlight where he knocked out the wide receiver.
Yeah,
Patriots.
Part of that, what's tough too, knowing what we know about concussions and knowing how the game has changed in terms of protecting players. You go back and you watch Zach Thomas highlights and you're like, these are all personal fouls. Yeah. Every single one of these tackles is illegal in today's game.
Watch your Roy Williams highlight reel. Everyone is targeting and above the shoulders.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then and Zach went to Texas Tech too. I mean, if you go you go watch his tape in college, he was good then too. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm stumping to your audience here, but it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, I'm betting against it.
Yeah, I feel
he's in the College Hall of Fame, so it's all good there, right?
Yeah, and what's funny is that Jason Taylor for a long time was his brother-in-law too. So not only were those two teammates, but Jason Taylor was married to Zach Thomas's sister.
Mhm.
So you had these two guys that they were linked together in terms of the team they played for, but also family-wise.
Yeah.
And then Jason Taylor one day woke up and looked in the mirror and went like, I don't need to be married, and that was not. But for a long time they were brother-in-laws too. So it was kind of cool to see them progress and dominate.
Yeah.
Kind of like Jalen Ramsey and who was it, Golden Tate?
Yeah. Family Feud on the field.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead.
I was just saying, he mentioned Jack Del Rio. Moving on to some Dolphins coaches. Do you have a favorite coach throughout the year? And I just want to say, you guys got Don Shula, Jimmy Johnson, a couple other guys, but I have a feeling that Brian Flores is taking over, especially for this new generation.
If Brian Flores is able to win one Super Bowl, he will be the second greatest coach in Miami Dolphins history. I mean, Jimmy Johnson is a Hall of Fame coach, but he didn't win the Super Bowl with the Miami Dolphins like we thought he was going to. He got the team, there, and they were really just missing a quarterback. I mean, after Dan Marino, Dave Wanstad took over and had Jay Fiedler as our quarterback for 4 years. And, I like Jay. I know Jay, but he wasn't Dan Marino, and that's a tough position to be in. That was the Ricky Williams era, actually. I think Brian Flores will be there. Personally, my favorite coach is Dan Campbell. He was our interim coach after Joe Philbin left, because this guy, I mean, you talk about, he's going to be the head coach of the Detroit Lions, but I mean, the dude,
old school cat. Yeah.
Dude, he talks like this, and he's just like
Oklahoma drills,
Oklahoma drills, eat your protein, go to bed. I mean, it was like a drill sergeant in there. And the thing is, like, we've played the Houston Texans as a franchise, I believe 13 times. We've won one. We've lost every single time to the Houston freaking Texans. The only time we can beat the Texans is when we're making a trade with them. But Dan Campbell took over the team, and the first week or the second week, I think we played the Titans and then we played the Houston Texans, and we just, boat raced these guys to the point where it was like 53-20 or something like that. And it was like, Dan Campbell's my man right there. But the dude is just a monster. He looks like what a football coach is supposed to look like. And back when we were on that HBO show, Hard Knocks, he was our tight ends coach. And we had a guy named Michael Egnew, who was like a reach when we drafted him. And the guy couldn't block. He didn't know how to do it. And so there's a line in there where he misses a block in a preseason game and the quarterback gets sacked. And Dan Campbell's mic'd up for HBO and he just goes, freaking Egnew. And the way he said it, it's just like, to this day, it kills Dolphins fans, because it was just, I don't know, it was just so basic, so like Neanderthalish. But I love Dan Campbell. I thought he should have gotten the job instead of Adam Gase.
Yes. Speaking of Adam Gase, do you have anything nice to say about him? Anything?
He knows how to smell some smelling salts.
He definitely puts something up his nose. I will say this. I have a friend who is really, really good friends with Adam Gase. And I'm not going to reveal who, but because I can't, but Adam Gase.
Peyton Manning.
No. I don't know Peyton. But that's his best friend for sure.
Yeah.
But Adam Gase allowed me to come onto the field week 1 against the Seattle Seahawks a couple of years ago. Not during the game, but before, and just kind of hang out. And, you kind of get a life-size picture of how large these football players are. Yeah. And that was cool. I was happy when the Jets took him on as their head coach, because I kind of knew, who he was as a coach for the Dolphins. I'm sad to see him leave. I'm sad to see that the Jets actually made a good pick for their head coach. But Adam Gase has got kids. He's a family man, so I'll leave it at that.
Got it. You did say something nice. I like it.
There you go. So we talked about your favorite coach. I want to know your least favorite coach, and I want to know why it's Nick Saban.
Well, Nick Saban, again, it's kind of like the Dan Marino answer for favorite player, right? I mean, if you grew up prior to Nick Saban being the Miami Dolphins head coach, you just have to hate him. Now, we've all made a pact. I mean, we haven't discussed this as Dolphin fans, but we all know that if Tua leads the Miami Dolphins to a Super Bowl, then we forgive Nick Saban. But until that happens, no. I mean, I hated the fact that Alabama won inside the Dolphins Stadium this national championship game. I mean, that was awful. I mean, I was happy for all the players, but I hated him. Him aside, the absolute, for me, I hated Dave Wanstad, because the guy just took all of Jimmy Johnson's talent that he acquired and drove him into the ground and drove him away, including Ricky Williams. But the worst coach that we ever had was Cam Cameron. If you guys remember Cam Cameron, he was the San Diego Chargers offensive coordinator. He was like the pick. You know how these coordinators catch fire and they're going to be the guy to become the head coach. We got him. We were thrilled. And then we went 1-15 and drafted Ted Ginn instead of a quarterback in the first round. He was a one and done. He was 1-15 and he was gone. And then the worst part is he goes to the Ravens and wins the Super Bowl as their offensive coordinator. So it was like, he just sucked for us, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I do see he was a one and done head coach. He never got a head coaching job again.
Nope.
And now he's actually he's not coaching right now, but after Baltimore, he went to Louisiana State to be their offensive coordinator.
Yeah, his famous line, I was at the draft when Ted Ginn was drafted. I wanted Brady Quinn, so it shows how much I know. But Ted Ginn was drafted, and then afterwards he was booed. This guy had not coached a game for the Miami Dolphins yet. Usually when you get a new head coach, you're like, yeah, this is our guy. They were booing him at the press conference, and he was like, we got to turn those thumbs upside down. Like, we're like, okay, we got the dorkiest coach of all time. And he goes,
nerd.
Yeah. And then he goes, he says the line that is now infamous for Dolphins fans when he says, not only did we draft Ted Ginn, but we drafted his family. And we're like, well, can his family throw a 10-yard out route? Because I don't understand what his family has to do with this situation. I just watched the guy sprain his ankle after scoring a touchdown against the Florida Gators in the championship. And then he walked away because he sprained his ankle and couldn't play anymore. Like, we got this injured small wide receiver, and you're telling me that I got his uncle and his cousin too. Wonderful.
Yeah, Ted Ginn, you guys drafted him 9th overall. A couple guys who went right after him. Geno's Patrick Willis.
Number 10. Yep.
Daryl Reeves. All those guys were within the next 5 picks.
Yeah, so it's clear that we got the best of that bunch.
I mean, he ended up being a Niner. He was actually one of our best. I don't think we've had a solid return guy since him. So
what's crazy about that whole thing is he's still in the league. I mean, he's actually, when you look at that list, he might be one of the only guys still in the league from that draft. And, he's a journeyman. He's played for just about every single team. But, it turns out in terms of investment, he was a good pick, but it's just not for us.
There is one guy in this draft that's still in the league with him. Oh, there's 2. But I'm not really counting the other guy. The first guy, number 7 overall, Adrian Peterson.
Okay, there you go. Of
course. And then all the way down at pick, these are just first rounders.
Right.
Greg Olsen, who I'm not really counting. I mean, he didn't finish out this year. And who knows if he'll even be back. He'll probably be in the booth next year. But Adrian Peterson and Ted Ginn, those are the 2 guys.
Yeah, so I mean,
Greg.
Turns out that that they might have pegged the right guy, but he wasn't number 9 overall pick material for sure.
I feel you.
Wasn't.
All right, moving on just a little bit. Do you have a first Dolphins memory?
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple, and I'm gonna pick at an old wound. But the Thanksgiving game against the Cowboys with Leon Lett, that's one of my cousins is a huge Cowboys fan. The other one is a huge Lions fan. So we would always sit around on Thanksgiving and watch the games. And this one happened to be Dolphins Cowboys. We had no right winning that game. In fact, we won that game. I think we were like 9-3 after that game. The Dolphins were. They didn't win another game the rest of the year, and they were, going to be the number 1 seed after that game, and then they missed the playoffs. So that just tells you the football guys are like, no, Leon Lett screwed up. That's the only reason you won that game. You didn't deserve to win that game. You're losing the rest of them. So that was a big one. For me, the comeback game for Dan Marino, 1994. So 93, week 1, he tears his Achilles. He misses out on a bunch of stuff, including Don Shula's record-breaking win total. I think Doug Peterson ended up being our quarterback for that game. He comes back in 94 against Drew Bledsoe and the Patriots, and it is a shootout. We have Irving Fryer. We got him from the Patriots, and they're going back and forth, especially in the second half. And I think the final score ended up being like 43-39 or something along those lines. Somebody's going to correct me, I'm sure. But it was a slugfest, back and forth, back and forth. And I had to watch that game how I described earlier, and that I had to watch like a Colts Steelers game, and then they were doing break-in highlights of Marino throwing bombs, Bledsoe throwing bombs, and them going back and forth. So the Cowboys game was memorable. The the Patriots game is memorable. Unfortunately, the rest of them are all us losing to Jim Kelly and the Buffalo Bills. I mean, those are like the rest of my memories. We'd go to the AFC Championship game, and it was the same year the Niners actually lost to the Giants, if I'm not mistaken, and it was going to be Niners Dolphins in the Super Bowl, or maybe it was Cowboy. I don't remember, but I know the Niners were in the NFC Championship, the Dolphins were in the AFC Championship, and we had home field advantage against the Buffalo Bills and lost, and I was like devastated as a kid. And then I saw the Buffalo Bills. Actually, it must have been the Cowboys, because then I think they got stomped 73-2 or something. But yeah, I mean, most of my memories are wrapped around Thurman Thomas giving me the middle finger as a child.
Was that a game you went to live? Yeah.
No, it's just, it was
on
like
the street.
That's why this season sucked on some level. I mean, yes, we won 10 games, but the Bills are good again, and we had to win one game to get into the playoffs. And who's standing in our way but like Jim Kelly, James Lofton, Andre Rison, Bruce Smith, Darryl Talley, Kent Hull, Pete Metzelaars, Thurman Thomas, Marv Levy's coaching again. I'm just having flashbacks to my childhood, and then we lose 56-26. I'm like, well, welcome to my teen years.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that's your worst memory coming from that angle.
Everyone thinks that as a Dolphins fan that the Patriots are the team I hate the most. That is not true. The team I hate the most ever is the Buffalo Bills. And then it's like a tie between the Patriots and Jets and Raiders. But yeah, the Bills by far just ruined my childhood year after year.
Yeah.
So I guess you're betting against them today, man.
I don't like the Ravens either, because they beat us in a playoff game in like 2005 or something. And then Brian Billick and Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, they all took a leak on our field. Like, they beat us and then they peed on our field. And that story came out and they're bragging about it. And I'm like, these, MFers, they kicked our ass every single time since then. So I don't like the Ravens either. But you got to respect a man who, called a timeout in the middle of a game against the Browns to take some violent poops and then come back to win. So yeah, I guess I'm a Ravens fan this weekend.
Yeah.
Hey, fuck it, man. You can cuss. Don't be afraid of it, man. Shit, man. Fuck that.
Moving on to a little bit better memories. Do you have a favorite memory of being a Dolphins fan? I mean, you don't really have Super Bowls to really choose from.
Right.
It could be the classic play. When was it? A year or two ago when you guys beat the Patriots? The
Miami.
It could be that having.
Yeah.
It could be that you have Zonka in the American Gladiators Hall of Fame. No.
Well, that's the thing. I was born in 1982, so I was negative 10 years old when the Dolphins actually, founded the town of Perfectville, like you see behind me. So, that's the biggest thing that we've ever done, and I wasn't alive for it. So it's kind of hard to claim, Zonka and everyone. I understand what you're saying about the American Gladiators, but for me, there are it's individual accomplishments, it's individual things. Like the Miami Miracle was an amazing. It was an amazing play. I missed it. I turned the game off. so I missed the game. I missed it. And all of a sudden my phone started blowing up and I'm like, what happened? And then I'm like, yeah, totally. I know exactly what happened. Meanwhile, I'm like finally, looking at the highlights of it. So for me personally, it wasn't a great experience. One of them that 1-15 Cam Cameron year, the one was against those very same Baltimore Ravens that I was just lamenting about. So the only team we won against was the Baltimore Ravens in overtime. Cleo Lemon to Greg Camarillo. That was the connection in overtime. Cleo Lemon, our quarterback.
Greg Camarillo.
Yeah, so we that was a fun one because I did get that, and I was just like, don't go 0-16. I just wanted the one. That was my Super Bowl, so that was one. A couple of others. I mean, I've had some fantastic luck going to Miami Dolphins games and seeing just some really, really good nail biter games. There was a game a couple of years ago where the Los Angeles Chargers were playing in a soccer field in LA like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I went to that game. Somebody hit me with like a barbecue sauce bomb, like this bag full of barbecue sauce, and just exploded all over me. I'm like, I had no idea Charger fans were that passionate, but okay.
I didn't know they had fans.
I didn't know. It might not have been a Charger fan. I was in LA. It could have just been somebody throwing shit at me. I don't know. But that game was cool because it went down. First of all, football with 70,000 people in it, there's nothing quite like it. But watching football in a soccer stadium was incredible because there's not a bad seat in the whole place. Like you could be in the quote unquote nosebleeds and you've got a clear view of everything going on. So that was kind of fun. That game came down to the Chargers kicking a field goal. They thought it went in, so they fire off these cannons. The Charger fans are going crazy, and I look down at the field, and the Dolphins guys are all high-fiving each other. He missed the kick, but everyone in the stadium thought that he'd made it and won the game. So the Charger fans are all cheering. They're all happy. They're high-fiving me, wondering why I'm so happy. They didn't realize that they lost the game because he'd missed the field goal. So I was there live for that. The Bears game was a lot of fun because I was actually on the field before the game. It's a fun story. I've got a video of it. If I can find it, maybe I'll send it to you guys one day. But they told me, the Dolphins, they told me, you can go on the field before the game. As soon as the players come out, you have to leave. You can't videotape anything. And, just be respectful. I'm like, no problem. And meanwhile, I'm like, I'm never getting on the field again. I'm not listening to any of their rules. So the kicker for the Bears was Cody Parkey, who's now with the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
He was with the Dolphins the year prior to this incident. So he grew up a Miami Dolphins fan, and he's practicing his kicks. And you just see a guy in a Dolphins shirt all of a sudden wandering out during kicking warmups. And I've got my camera out, and I'm talking to Cody, and I'm like, hey, you're going to do us a favor today, right? You're going to kick miss a couple kicks. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you see is sky ground because security's grabbing me and throwing me off the field. And Cody Parkey missed 2 kicks in that game, including one that allowed us to get the overtime and win the game. So Cody Parkey, hats off to you. Yeah, you listened. I appreciate that.
That's hilarious. Good move.
That's so funny. Damn. All right. Do you got anything else before we kind of move on to brighter horizons here with the future, Duran?
No, I'm ready to talk about it.
All right.
I do want to start with just the draft picks that you guys have, just because you have so many coming up. You guys have been wheeling and dealing. You had your fire sale last year. You have 5 picks in the top 100, including 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders. It seems like you're pretty happy with Tua right now. Is there a direction that you guys want to go in that draft? Maybe offensive line, maybe wide receiver.
Trading for Watson?
I don't think the Watson thing has any legs to it. And the reason I say that is that his contract is very prohibitive for the Texans to even trade him. Number one. Number two, if you're going to trade for Deshaun Watson, who is a legit quarterback, right? I mean, he's arguably top 3, if not, he's by far top 5. Yeah. You're going to have to give up all those draft picks that you just mentioned, which means Deshaun Watson now comes to the Miami Dolphins, and they look a lot like the Houston Texans do right now. No draft capital, no wide receivers. He's really just swapping jerseys at that point. So I don't know that does anybody any good. So I doubt that's going to happen. What I will say is I think Tua deserves people forget he had no training camp. He had no preseason. He came off a devastating hip injury. Yeah. This entire rookie season was essentially all those things combined, right? I mean, it's all of his practicing. Was he Justin Herbert out there? No, but he won games. What did Justin Herbert forget to do in throwing all those touchdowns? Win games. I mean, Joe Burrow wasn't even out there because his knees suck. There's people have to give context to what they saw from Tua, and he's got 1.5 wide receivers. I mean, Devontae Parker and, name somebody other than Jakeem Grant, who I already crapped on.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have anybody. So I think the other things you have to start reading the tea leaves for, right? The Miami Dolphins are coaching the Senior Bowl. The Miami Dolphins are coaching the East West Shrine Game. They're not going to send their coaches and their scouts to these college tryout games, essentially is what they are, if they're planning on getting rid of all their draft picks. There would be no reason to do that. So I think they're going to build around Tua. Plus, by the way, they already came out twice since the season ended and said Tua's our guy. So they're going to build around Tua. Ryan Fitzpatrick's going to go away. They're going to bring in either another veteran who knows his role, or they're going to draft a project quarterback, 4th, 5th, 6th round, something like that. Quarterback is pretty much solidified. What they need is wide receivers. There's a guy at Alabama who you guys just saw just tear through Ohio State, happens to be friends with Tua Tagovailoa, happens to be the receiver on the other end of that amazing pass that Tua threw in that game against Georgia, Devontae Smith.
Yeah,
exactly.
So if you stay at 3, you get Devontae Smith. You also need a running back. Well, guess what? You don't really see a lot of running backs go in the first round unless they're another level of talent. There happens to be a guy who won a national championship with Tua Tagovailoa at Alabama, who's an incredible talent, who's probably going to be around at number 18 in Najee Harris. So I could see them doing that. Now, They could also go offensive line. You're never going to go bad with offensive linemen. They had 3 rookies on the offensive line last year.
Yeah.
So
Studs. Yeah.
They're all maulers, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Part of it's going to be scheme. They're going to have to, whoever their new offensive coordinator is probably going to need to make sure that he has a scheme that works to those guys' talent. And then you kind of hope that you don't have to draft an offensive lineman that high, and you can start, stacking talent, because they don't really have good running backs. They don't really have good wide receivers. You could go in the second round. You can always go pass rush. It's kind of like offensive linemen. It's, we need somebody back there to rush the quarterback. So I think in the first round, they're probably going to load up on talent. They're going to see you're going to see at least one wide receiver go.
Mhm.
I would love it. It's never going to happen, but I would love it if they came back with the 18th pick and got Waddle as well. I mean, you just get both of those wide receivers from Alabama. You pair them with Devontae Parker and Tua Tagovailoa, and of course you got Mike Gesicki running around as a tight end. And then all of a sudden you got some talent. But running back, wide receiver, you're going to see one of those, if not both of those, go in the first round for the Miami Dolphins.
Sounds like you're hoping for Miami roll tide, man.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Alabama, I hate them for their coach, but like, God damn, if they don't have like 20 good prospects every single year.
Alabama,
you got to
further south.
Yeah,
you got to draft the player, not the helmet, man. I learned that the hard way. Like I'm a Texas fan, like I said. I hate Oklahoma, but man, I got to give love for Adrian Peterson all the way, man.
I mean, at this point, Alabama's so talented that if Forrest Gump decided to enter the draft, I would probably take him and say, go ahead and start returning kicks, man. Number 44, let's do it.
Damn, that guy's fast.
You mentioned that you guys don't have many old guys on the team. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's going to be out of there. And you're not losing many in contracts. I think the 2 big ones, maybe Matt Breida, Landon Roberts. Can you think of anyone else that you might want to bring back, or would you want to move on from those guys?
No, I mean, you hit the 2. I mean, Matt Breida came over on a 5th round trade, 5th round pick to the Niners. Breida was so good with the Niners. It was curious. If I was him, I wouldn't want to come back to the Dolphins. I don't know why you take somebody with Matt Breida and his speed and his elusiveness, and then you say, hey, why don't you run between the center and the guard every single time you're in the game? That's not what he does best. The scheme was not good for Matt Breida, and that's a fault of Chan Gailey and the offensive coordination for the Miami Dolphins. You don't put Matt Breida in that situation. So he's probably going to move on, and I don't blame him. I was rooting for Matt. I thought it was a great pickup. But he's probably going to go. You're going to have to replace him with somebody that's going to fit whatever scheme you have.
Yeah.
And then Landon Roberts, he got hurt week 17. I think he tore his ACL or week 16, excuse me, against the Raiders.
Yeah.
So he's going to be out for a while anyway. I mean, we liked him a lot. He has a lot of intangibles, that kind of one of those glue guys, and he came from the Patriots. He knows Brian Flores. He knows what to expect. We are getting a guy back named Vince Beagle, who I think is actually a free agent as well. But he was one of these guys like a Landon Roberts before he got hurt during the offseason last year, where you can put him in and there's going to be people that have more talent, but there's not going to be somebody who's better coached, right? He's a sponge. So you can replace him with somebody in-house like Vince Beagle. I wouldn't mind a Landon Roberts coming back, but if he finds a better deal elsewhere, you hit it on the head. The Dolphins don't have a lot of people in free agency that they're going to miss necessarily. Ryan Fitzpatrick was the only guy over the age of 30 last year. Yep. He's going to be gone. I think Kyle Van Noy is going to be 30 this year. You've got a couple other guys who are going to be, getting to that age, but they're a very young team, and they had 11 rookies last year on the team. So they're really banking on the young guys coming up together and, gelling as a unit, and then, going from there.
Yeah. You guys have, 8 starters are 25 and under. So this is a young up-and-coming team. I mean, I think the future is bright, especially when you team them up with Flores and stuff. This is a team that I think is on the come-up, especially how long is Bill Belichick going to be around, and the Patriots, and Tom Brady's out of there. So I think you guys are in a great position.
It's an interesting time when all of a sudden the Steelers and the Patriots look like they're going to sink to the bottom, and all of a sudden the Bills and the Browns are the teams that you're going, this is the class of the AFC. Bill Belichick, he's a great coach. He did not have a good team this year, and I think they got 7 wins. They did pretty well, all things considered. the Jets are a couple of years away. They're probably where the Dolphins were at the beginning of 2019. They're going to have another bad season, and then hopefully they can start building from there if you're a Jets fan. The Bills are good. There's nothing you can do about that other than try to beat them. And that's what Brian Flores is tasked with. I mean, you guys know this. You guys are football fans. You have to win your division. You have to win against the team that you are up against. And the Miami Dolphins went 3-3, but you got to go 4-2. You got to go 5-1. You got to go 6-0. That's how you win consistently, is you got to beat the teams that you're playing every single year. And, until you do that, you're not going to be a playoff team.
Totally agree.
I think it's going to be a little bit of time before you see the Jets kind of making some moves. I mean, maybe that's a destination for Breida, definitely with bringing over that Shanahan type of system for sure, man. But one thing I didn't say this earlier. One thing I do like about the Dolphins, man, they seem like they built that locker room camaraderie, like for sure. I mean, even though you don't like the guy, but when he got a cheap shot, Jakeem Grant, I mean, his boys stepped up for him. They got ejected. But one thing that they stepped up for him, and Brian Flores did as well. And I'm definitely a Brian Flores guy for sure. So, I mean, maybe I'm not bald, but maybe I'm liking bald coaches, man, because I'm loving Saleh and freaking, Brian Flores. He's a stud. You guys got a good one over there.
Yeah. Flores, what's funny about that, because he comes running out against the Bengals and he's ready to beat the crap out of anybody. Even Boomer
ready to suit up.
If Boomer Esiason were there, he was going to get his chain snatched by Flores. But the thing about Flores too is, like, if you go back and you watch that clip, it's the funniest thing, because this guy is hot. He's seeing nothing but red, but he also knows he's not about to cut a check to the NFL. So he pulls up the mask in the middle of the fray. So he's getting ready to punch it. He's like, hold on. He's like, let me put this back up. I'm not trying to lose $10,000 over Jakeem Grant. Jakeem, part of the problem with Jakeem Grant was, again, scheme. You can't have Jakeem Grant be your slot receiver that's going to be running down the seam. Again, he's not that guy. You got to put him in space. You got to run him in screens. You got to let him wiggle and get around people. Again, he's so short. The arc of the ball to come over the top of the defender just isn't gonna work. And the one time that he got it right, he dropped the ball. So, Devontae Parker and Jakeem Grant are friends. Devontae went to help out, but he's kind of like the little brother, right? Everyone's got a sibling that you're like, oh God, he's kind of a dweeb, he's kind of a dork. But if anybody messes with him, you're right there to drop kick him in the throat. So that's what was going on there. They do have a lot of good team chemistry there. It would not surprise me, going back to the free agency thing, and I mentioned his name earlier, and you guys saw how well he played. It would not surprise me if Xavier Howard is gone going into next season. I could see them trading Xavier Howard. So you will see some of those guys go away, even if they're under contract. So some of that camaraderie is probably going to go away in the offseason, but not through free agency. And, if you lose one guy, I don't think it breaks the culture, especially if the guy that's still running it, like Brian Flores, is there.
Yeah. All right. I only got one more question. G, what about you?
No, man, not really. I mean, he kind of covered everything, which is good. It was good for me, man. But ask away, Duran.
The only question I want to know is, I know you've been to a few Dolphins games. Do you remember your very first game that you attended?
Very first Dolphins game or first
Dolphins.
Football game? So it was against the Raiders, and hold on, let me think about this.
Pop quiz.
I think the first game I went to was against the Raiders when they came back from Los Angeles. My dad was a big Raiders fan, so I went to a lot of Raider games with him, and he was really good about bringing me to those. And I'm thinking, because that was during an era I actually went to the Cowboys-Steelers Super Bowl in Arizona. When Neil O'Donnell decided that he would rather play for the Cowboys than the Steelers, and threw Larry Brown all those just gifts. But I remember, and this wasn't the first game, but because I know it was well after that, but I do remember Ronnie Brown was on the Dolphins in one occasion, and the Raider fans are just giving him so much crap. And it was so funny because Ronnie Brown was looking up at the scoreboard and like pointing to the score, going like, "What's that say again?" And the Dolphins were up by like 17 with like 3 minutes left, and he was starting to dance and just really just poke the bear with Raider fans who were still there. That wasn't the first one, but my first one was a Raiders Dolphins game, and my dad basically told me, show up in neutral colors. Don't wear those colors. So
smart man.
There you go. All right. Well, you got anything else, Duran?
No, that's it. Thanks, Sam. Really appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you guys. This was fun. I haven't really gone through the whole gamut of fandom there from, past, present, and future. So I appreciate that.
Of course.
Definitely. Sam, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, whatso have you. Go and promote yourself a little bit before we sign off. Go ahead, man. Let's know
Yeah,
what you're
guys.
working on.
If you do want to listen and hear more about the Miami Dolphins, the inner workings, as well as some of the things that I do for comedy, you can check us out on welcometopperfectville.com. We are a part of the Fanatics Network. You can check me out on Twitter at PerfectVillePod. Really, I'm just making fun of Jets the entire time, the New York Jets. So if you like some Jets humor, feel free to follow us on there. And then I don't know, root for the Ravens this weekend. That's what I'm going to promote. Root for the Ravens, and I'm hopefully I'm not going to hurt any feelings. I guess root for the Packers, right? Packers versus Rams. Lesser of two evils for Niner fans.
I like it.
All right. We're going to have everything linked below. So if you want to go and click and follow our guy, Sam, that'd be great. Sam, stick around after we sign off right here. That'd be great. But thanks everybody for hosting. Again, I'm your host, Gennaro. That's Duran.
Have a good one.